guys, welcome back to another Weird Wednesday. I'm Ashers, and this is
Pato.
Oh, how was your weekend? It's still kind of the weekend, right?
Right. No, you're right. I got drunk for the first time in 10 months.
Oh
Which
no.
means last night, yeah, which means today I'm hungover for the first time in 10 months.
Oh
And
no.
yeah, I forgot what this is like. Not really. It's kind of like riding a bike, you never forget. But yeah, we had a Memorial Day get together and it was good. It's always nice when people come out, but it's a numbers game. You have to
Sure.
invite 40 people so that 15 show up. But that's the way it goes, man. Um, and it was a good time. And that was it. And then today I saw Top Gun with my mom. It was pretty sweet.
Oh, you enjoyed that.
I did.
Good.
There was something else I wanted to bring up too, but I don't know. Uh, I don't know. I hung out with my daughter. What else did we do? That was kind of it.
Okay.
How was your weekend?
It was interesting. I did the last drive-in thing.
Right, I did watch that. I got Shutter again for Joe Bob,
Good.
and this weekend was the first time that I actually put it on and I watched that pig movie. I didn't see the second one, but I saw I had the first one on while I was reading and laying in bed.
Sure.
Yeah,
Yes.
good.
Yeah, it's I mean it's always, fun if you're not already, you should get Shutter to subscribe and watch The Last Drive-In on Friday nights with Twitter. So, I did that. And then I did actually Jeremiah had Jeff Craig on from The Map in Black. We had Jeff on the show. Great guy. Um and he does Jeremiah for his Patreon. He does this thing where he's got like an after show. You can actually watch him record the show live as a patron for a Bigfoot Society podcast, and then go to the after show and interact with the guests that he had on or whatever. At that time, it was just me at home, and I was like ready for the last drive-in, which I tend to dress up for. And so I got on there, and it was kind of hilarious because I'm dressed as Freddy Krueger on the Bigfoot Society podcast. So, it was
Without the horrific burns.
without the horrific. Yes, it was.
Yes.
But it tickled me. I don't know. I just thought it was hilarious. So, I did that, and then Saturday I was like gonna do all kinds of things. I'm like, I'm gonna do things today, and then I didn't because I sat down to watch one episode of the new Stranger Things, and I watched all of it. So
Yeah, I haven't. I watched one episode of Kenobi, and we didn't watch the second one. Two of those dropped. Have not touched Stranger Things yet. I think that'll be my goal for this week. But good
yeah,
stuff.
yeah. I mean, it's. I mean, if you like Stranger Things, you'll like this season, I guess.
Yeah, cool.
Unless you just hate life and you like to bitch about things, which some people on the internet do. So I don't know. Um, so I did that, and then I went and I took time for myself, and I hung out with lots of people, which
Good.
was very significant for me to do. And I'm gonna say I'm very sorry to everybody for kind of slacking on the Patreon a little bit. That sucks. I should not do that because you guys pay for that. And but I guess I can't. But you guys got the big dick alien episode. The lost episode of the show over there. So, I mean, definitely check that out. I just need to pick up some other things. But I've also been I'm still sick. I've been sick for like going on 2 weeks now. So that's not
Yeah.
been great. I don't think I'm contagious. At least I hope not. I went and hung out with a bunch of people. So
Surprise, bitches. Somebody brought a 6-pack of Corona to my get together last night. And I remember they walked in with it and was like, "Hey, I brought some Corona just in case you guys don't have it." And I didn't get the joke at the time. I was like, "Oh, I don't drink that shit. Just throw it in the fridge." And then this morning, I opened the fridge and I saw the Corona, and I was like, "I get it." Oh, very funny. Very,
someone
very
brought the
clever. You
damn
brought,
Corona. Yeah,
yeah.
we did I went to last night. I went to a party, and I saw lots of people yesterday. But I ended up at a party at the end of the night. At my usual haunt, and one of the girls in the group brought a guy from work, and This guy was insufferable. He wasn't that bad at first, but the drunker he got, the more he was kind of just trying to show off. And, he became that guy with too many stories. And it's like, none of us know who you are. We're not invested in your character arc. You're oversharing. Can you just stop?
Was
You
he on
know,
cocaine?
no, he was just drunk. And,
Okay.
you know, it was very, don't be that person. Don't get invited to, that's one thing about people. People like it when you want to talk about them. That's what people like, when you are engaging with them or whatever. So when you spend the entire time talking about yourself and telling all of these you know stories about yourself. I shouldn't say this. He told me he was going to listen to the show. Maybe I should cut this part out. But um
Fuck him.
but Steve, the next time you come hang out with us, you don't have to
Now you're
try
gonna
to
call him out by
impress
name.
us. Yeah, you don't have to. We're pretty easygoing people. None of that was necessary. But anyway, just don't be that guy. Is what I'm saying.
Dial it back a notch, Steve.
Everybody knows a Steve. Everybody's been to a get together with a Steve, and he was being that guy, and I'd hang out with him again. Who knows? He's probably just very nervous, and I get that too. But yeah.
Well,
Anyway, so I understand the hungover angle. So
yeah, that you know what? Honestly, the thing that I liked the most about when I wasn't drinking, and this isn't like I'm not going on a tear. Like it was fucking Memorial Day weekend. I had people over. I drank. I'm gonna go back to mostly not drinking. Although I have a shit ton of beer left over, so I don't know what we're gonna do with that. But one of the things I liked about being sober is that when I would go to social functions, I never had to worry about being a Steve.
yeah,
And because I was always in complete control of myself, I knew what I was doing. Obviously, I know how to talk, I know how to navigate socially, and I was always on top of my game, uh, very well behaved, right? And last night, like I didn't get out of control, like nothing terrible happened, but I don't remember the end of the night. You know what I mean? And I assume that I didn't turn into a Steve and fucking start jawing my mouth about shit, but like you never know. You know what I mean? So
sure. I
I
mean,
don't know.
I completely understand that. My friend, one of my friends is a hypnotist. So we kind of talked about this in an upcoming Patreon episode. But um, anyway, one of my friends is a hypnotist, and I showed up, and I wasn't drinking. I wasn't going to drink really. I wasn't going to spend more than like an hour. I'd already not been home all day. But anyway, I show up, and my hypnotist friend comes up to me, and he's very drunk. And let me tell you, this guy never gets really drunk. Usually, like he's one half of a couple, and usually he's the sober one. But
Yeah.
this time he was not. He was the drunk one, and he's like, there's people that have been able to hypnotize people and have them get drunk off of water. And he like kept talking about it, and he was like, I'm trying to debate if I should try to like hypnotize you to get drunk off your water. It's like, you need to hurry up and decide because I'm getting ready to drink. So, but he didn't, not this time. But hey, I would try it out. Yeah. So anyway, um, but no, overall, good Memorial Day weekend.
Yeah.
It was just fine. So there's that.
Rock and roll.
I have a little news to share. I just wanted to talk about this weird video that popped up. People are still mostly talking about the UAP stuff right now in the community. I feel like there hasn't been too much excitement, except for this video that popped up, and it's just some lady who uploaded this video on YouTube, and she had titled it as like a skunk walking, like doing like a handstand walk. And it does not look like that at all. I don't see the correlation there. It looks like a little hairy thing. I mean, it kind of looks like Cousin It. I sent you
Yeah,
the video. Did you watch it?
I watched it. Yeah, it looks like a I thought of it uh like an anamorphic like cartoon hedgehog character or
Okay.
something. You know what I mean? Like if you were to see like a cartoon where like animals walk around on two legs. Like I could see where she would think that it was an animal walking upright, but I don't think that makes sense. If
Yeah.
you see, you know what I mean? Like
I don't
that
either.
doesn't.
No, it looks like there's only two legs.
Right. And I don't know if skunks walk around like that, do they? Is that like something that's been established or
I mean, there's not, I mean, I'm sure they can.
and they can rear up, I'm
Yeah,
sure, but
I'm
like I
sure.
don't that thing's fucking walking around.
And
So
it's doing a good job, right? It's not like it's
yeah,
stumbling or anything, but there's no like tail or obvious markings. In fact, it looks like it's all one color, and that
yeah,
color probably isn't black. I mean, it's a black and it's like a ring video, right? It's a security cam video,
yeah.
but you can kind of tell when something's black, and it doesn't look black. It looks kind of more brown to me, darker colored, but not black, and it doesn't look like a fucking skunk. I don't know what the hell it is, but but it doesn't look like
And
a skunk.
where was that taken? Did it say in in the
Um,
video?
I don't think it does say in the video, but I don't really know.
Oh, Redlands, California.
Oh, okay, so it does say that. Well, that's the weird thing about it. So, like, you look at this person's YouTube channel; they literally just created that channel just to upload this video.
Yeah.
And, is that because they are sharing it around with friends to be like, look at this weird fucking thing on my camera? Is that because this is a hoax that they, perpetrated? But, I don't know. So I can't find this person on social media. I'm going to dig around and try to find them on social media and ask them directly about it. But then the title of the video is not, it wasn't to, it wasn't like weird creature caught on camera or, or anything like that. It was very mundane.
Well, but that's I think a red flag in and of itself. It's got a very mundane title that seems to so okay. If you everything this person did, create a YouTube account to upload the video, right? Like where I didn't have a YouTube account before, but
Sure.
I caught this weird thing on camera. Which actually now that I think about it, I have a YouTube video of a skunk in my driveway on my YouTube channel. Because we were drinking in the garage one night and a skunk walked up and I videotaped it
But
for like YouTube or
is it
something.
an actual
No, it's
skunk?
being normal. It's a normal skunk. But the fact that this person did that seems to suggest that they knew that there was something odd about this video, odd enough to where they felt the need to share it and they felt the need to put it on YouTube where they weren't normally a YouTube content creator. I have all my short films on YouTube. So I had a YouTube channel anyway. So when I had this weird video of me and my buddies drunk fucking with the skunk, it made sense to just throw it up there. And it really, I mean, what probably I didn't even have to. Who cares, right? But the fact that this person went through the trouble to do it suggests that they knew that there was something incredibly unique about this video. However, the way they titled it, once again, seems to play it off as being like a random skunk video.
Right.
So there's a disconnect there. Like, did they really think that this was a skunk handstand walking? If that's the case, why would you upload it? And then go through all the trouble creating a YouTube channel and uploading and blah blah blah, and then sharing it around, right? I don't know. That doesn't quite jive. Those two aspects seem to contradict each other.
Right. It's
Yeah.
an interesting,
So maybe it is. That's what I guess I'm saying. It could be a hoax because of the contradiction. It makes it seem fishy. I hope someone does like a like where they zoom in and shit, or like do like a pull frames out of it.
yeah,
I don't know how much better you're gonna get with like a ring cam video, but people pull apart videos all the time and do like photo work with it, and I would love to see someone do it with this.
sure. Just to kind of see if there's any parts missing because it's very fast. It's right in the corner. It just kind of comes into view and then out. I mean, I
Yeah.
can't imagine. If it was somebody that made this, that made it a hoax. Well, what the hell was it that they used? A puppet, maybe?
I don't know.
What is
Yeah.
that? Wasn't their dog. What was it?
Yeah.
That's another piece of it. So I don't know. And more research I think needs to be done on it. I just got sent that video today. So I haven't had the chance. I mean, I'll do a little bit. I'm no fucking IT expert, but I mean, I can do a little bit and try to see what's, if I see anything different, but probably not. I'm probably still going to be baffled. So
Yeah.
there's that. But, I wonder, do they think it's a skunk because they had other frames of the video that aren't uploaded and so you can like clearly see, oh, okay, well, it's a skunk, is there more pieces to it? That's why just personally I would prefer to just reach out to this person and ask them that.
Right. Get some context. Like, what's the area like? Was there been a history of animal activity? Has there been a history of paranormal activity? Like, what's this person's past been like? What's their experience with shit been? You know, is it specific to the location? Is it specific to the person? You know what I mean?
It looks
Um,
like Captain Caveman. It does. Isn't that what it looks like?
Yes, you're absolutely correct, and I love that reference. Great job.
That's what it was,
Fuck.
guys. It was Captain Caveman.
Oh
So,
my god.
there's
What
that.
show was he on? Do you even remember? Like, I know the character. He had the club, and he flew around with the club, and he had a cape.
I think back in those days, it was just kind of the general Hanna-Barbera where they all kind of did mini crossovers, and I think Captain Caveman might have had his own couple of shows. And then he would make appearances
Right.
on other Hanna-Barbera character shows, you know.
Yeah. Hey, have you seen the it's so funny, we were just talking about banana splits a couple episodes ago.
Yeah.
Have you seen the shit for the Winnie the Pooh movie they're doing?
I kind of, but I've heard that was I didn't know that was real.
No, it's real. Yeah, because Winnie the Pooh hit public domain last year
Oh
because it's so
Lord.
old.
Okay.
Although, and it's not, it's considered a Disney thing, but it's not necessarily. Disney made the Winnie the Pooh stuff, but they don't own the rights to it specifically. And I guess it hit public domain, and someone did a slasher movie with it. And
Jesus.
Pooh looks terrifying. And then they did a picture of Piglet. I saw a still of that, and it looks like I don't know. No, they might fuck it up like they did the banana splits thing, but I'm definitely at least checking it out. It
Yeah.
looks like it's gonna be pretty fucking crazy.
Well, I'd still watch it. It's probably not going to be good, but I'd still watch it. I think I'd have to figure out who's involved, and is it just a nothing nobody who's making it?
Nothing that where it grabbed me. I mean,
Yeah.
I doubt it's a first time filmmaker, but it wasn't like, oh, it's
Yeah, not that there's anything wrong with first time filmmakers. Just is there any
right.
big names attached to it? I guess was my question.
Yeah, none that rung a bell with me or that I remembered, but I could be wrong.
And I mean things like that that don't have big names do usually tend to not be very good. So we'll see. Maybe
Yeah.
they'll blow us away. Maybe this will be the next big name in cinema because of their Winnie the Pooh slasher movie. Is it a slasher? Is it a paranormal? What's the? I'll read about it.
I don't think they've released. It's called Blood and Honey. I don't know how much details they've released. CNN's got a fucking story on it.
That's crazy. That's the name sounds very student film.
It's written by Rise Frake Waterfield. I have no idea who that is.
Okay.
Maria Taylor, Amber Doig Thorne, Danielle Scott. It could be British. Um,
Okay.
you know what I mean? Because I think they were fucking British or something. Who knows? We'll check
Okay.
it out.
Well, I'll check it out. All right.
Yeah.
Well, that was my news for the week. Pat, did you have anything you wanted to share for the news?
No, I'm proud of myself for thinking to bring up the Winnie the Pooh thing.
Is
That's my
is that the thing
contribution.
you were thinking about earlier? Okay. All right. Well, we're gonna say that was. That's okay. It's better to have a short intro with this topic because we have a large topic. So, let's get into it. Pat,
Show.
before you research this episode, what the hell did you know about Skinwalker Ranch?
Ah, I didn't research this episode, so not
Good for
only did I
you.
know nothing coming into it, but I know it's something that I think always confused me because I would hear it brought up by people, and they always were talking about it like I should, like, oh, Skinwalker Ranch, and I never knew what they were really talking about. Um, it's been referenced a lot. It was, something that's been referenced countless times on Coast to Coast, but I don't think I've ever heard like a proper episode about it. I know that there's like alien stuff, but skinwalkers are a Native American. I know what skinwalkers are, right? It's basically like werewolves or like the Native American uh version of the people that change shape and shit, right? And but I know that there's like a UFO connection, and then I think the place is haunted. Like there's ghost shit too. Like, um, yeah, but I don't know the specifics on any of it.
Sure. No, that's okay. That's very honest. Well, good then. I guess we will have an authentic storytelling time. Um, so that'll be great. So yeah, Skinwalker Ranch is very, very, very famous in this community. It's one of those things that everybody's heard about. It's like Bigfoot or the Loch Ness Monster or Roswell.
Sure.
It's a big story. Everybody's heard about it. But you're probably right. Probably a lot of people, unless they are particularly fascinated, um, haven't taken the time to really sit down and research this place and figure out what it really is. So we'll kind of, I guess the best way to talk about it is to kind of go through the history and, from present day to now. So, you're right, Pat, kind of, about skinwalkers. I mean, skinwalkers are a very Native American thing, in particular the Navajo. So a skinwalker, or as they call them, the Yinaldushi, is a basically a bad shaman. It's like a shaman that's turned evil. They
Hmm.
have the ability to shapeshift into particular animals. Most of the time, they shapeshift into like coyotes or wolves, but they can shapeshift into other things. But they're yeah, it's a bad medicine man. Um, and so back in the day, two native tribes were at war with each other. The Navajo were at war with the Ute tribe, and the Navajo cursed the land that Skinwalker Ranch is sitting on. So it's in, I think it's Uinta County, Utah, and they cursed that entire region. So the Ute Native Americans to this day won't go there. They actually refer to it as the path of the skinwalker because, again, the Navajo, cursed it with skinwalker, so they won't go there. So there are other instances of sightings and things like that taking place kind of in the Unitah basin there that kind of runs along the river. Native Americans and a lot of tribes also believe that water carries evil, which is a very interesting thing when you start looking into instances of high strangeness because you have a lot of things that happen near rivers and stuff like that. Um, Perfect example, obviously the Mothman sightings and the UFO flap that centered around that whole incident happened all along the Ohio River. And you'll find this all throughout high strangeness history, but they do kind of tend to believe that these spirits come in and out of the water, travel through waterways, these evil spirits, to do their bidding, I guess, or what have you. But
That's super interesting.
you didn't know that?
Yeah, that water would act as a negative magical conduit. I mean, like I've seen Constantine where like he puts his feet in the bucket of water to like and holds a cat, and can
Sure.
see like the ghosts and shit. But I've never. I thought because a lot of times you see like like vampires can't cross rivers and shit, or like water is like a way to block. I don't know, Lord of the Rings when they're getting chased by the wraiths or whatever, they can't cross the river. Um, I've That's interesting that they
Well, if
think that it
water
carries.
is cleansing, then then I believe the idea there is that when water cleanses these things, it holds it. It takes it
Oh,
into itself, right? And then therefore, and then water's constantly moving throughout the planet. All waterways are essentially connected unless they're man-made. And so these evil spirits can then escape from the water or what have you. I believe anyway is the idea of it. But yeah, so that's just a tidbit of information. So anyway, rich Native American history there, but let's be honest, every fucking part of North America has rich Native American history because they lived here. So
their land, yeah,
right,
exactly.
I mean, let's just be real here.
Mhm.
But it really didn't start to pick up too much steam until the 1950s, particularly in 1951 when a science teacher by the name of Junior Hicks had a UFO sighting in that area. And it wasn't just him that had the UFO sighting, it was also his entire class of elementary school students.
Wow.
And in broad daylight, and he became very fascinated with this and was like, well, what the hell was that? So he went on to really start putting boots to the ground and figure out, well, what the fuck, come to find out, again, it wasn't just him and his students, it was other teachers and other students and other people in the area. People had been seeing these lights in the sky, and again, broad daylight. And then that's kind of when the homework was done on the Native American land, um, aspect of it. Like that's when that lore kind of really became significant to the research of this. There really wasn't that time beforehand. Again, there are previous sightings of regular people seeing things. There's a very famous one of a French missionary, I think, in like the 1700s, that had a weird UFO encounter, and I mean, there's so many, in this area, and so but Junior Hicks kind of started popularizing this idea of this area having some weird type of activity going on, but nothing really came of it, just like, every other researcher of these things. And then things weren't necessarily quiet, but the popularity of this place really boomed when a family known as the Sherman family moved in 1994 to a farm that is now what we call Skinwalker Ranch. But they just were a regular ranch family. They just wanted a nice place to live, and they bought this piece of land and thought it was really nice and whatever. So when they first moved in, they noticed weird things around the house. On their first walkthrough of it, apparently almost every entrance to the home was, had a multiple deadbolts on it. And not just like multiple deadbolts, like the front door and the back door had deadbolts, but then like the outside of the house also had them. And so it was kind of all around. And then they also found like these big heavy chains around the house, which they, assumed maybe housed a couple of dogs. On farms and ranches, you typically have a lot of dogs, and they just assume maybe that's what it was for, or at least this is what the Sherman family says. So,
Right.
they found all this stuff, but on the first day, and they were moving furniture into the home, they had a strange encounter with a wolf, and it wasn't just like any wolf; it was a big fucking wolf. I mean, they said it was probably 3 times the size of a regular wolf. And it kind of came out of the tree line and kind of came running up towards them, but it wasn't aggressive towards them. As a matter of fact, quite the opposite. It was very friendly, and was just kind of hanging around. And they were moving like they had, cattle and stuff. And a calf had stuck its like snout through the fence, and the wolf took it as an opportunity and bit down on the snout of this calf and wouldn't let go. So Terry Sherman, the father, and one of his sons run over, and they're trying to scare it away. One of them is hitting it with like an axe handle, and it just does not give a shit. It wants that meat. And so then they pull out their gun and shoot it, and nothing happens. Um, it didn't bleed. They didn't see where it was actually shot. They said they shot it point blank in the side, and nothing happened. So then they shot it again. And at that point, it had released the calf, but didn't run or anything. It was just kind of confused. But even though they shot it again, nothing happened. So Terry went to the car and got a shotgun out and decided to shoot it with that. Surely a shotgun's going to blast this thing to hell. And shot it. It was shot 3 more times, and still no blood, no wounds, no nothing. And it just kind of retreated back into the woods. The Terry and his son went to go follow it. There was no blood trail. They couldn't find it again. Very strange, allegedly. So,
Wow.
any thoughts on that particular story?
Wow. So, I mean, that would mean that it was a ghost,
Maybe
right?
a ghost, yeah, spirit of
Yeah,
some
but
sort.
at the same time, it was corporeal enough to damage the cow or the calf, right?
Right.
But non-corporeal enough to avoid getting shot or taking damage or something. Yeah, that's a head scratcher.
Yeah. Very interesting. And then so after that, the family would continue to have weird experiences, just all the time. All the time. They would see strange lights in the sky. They constantly had this strange musky smell in the air. They would hear disembodied voices talking, but couldn't really understand what was being said. And they said that it sounded like the voices were coming from like the sky.
Oh
They,
my god.
yeah, they would hear weird noises that seemed like they were coming from the ground, like heavy machinery in the ground, and things like that, but can never really pinpoint it. They had constant crop circles, ice circles, constant cattle mutilation was all the time.
Hmm.
Their dogs were always on edge. One time, the wife, Gwen Sherman, she came home from the grocery store. And this is just an example of some of the weird things. She came home from the grocery store. She was unpacking the groceries, putting everything away, and she had folded up the bags, went to go use the bathroom, and she came to the kitchen, and all of the groceries were back in the bags on the counters. Yeah, that's shitty. I'd be
That's a
pissed.
dickhead move.
Right? Why? For why? Why are
Now
you
they're just
doing
fucking
this?
with you. Yeah.
Right. So but things like that happened a lot. And then again, they were losing money on all this cattle that kept dying. I mean, they had like I think I read that the yield for reasonable cattle lossage when you're a rancher is about 1% of your cattle. They had lost 20% of their cattle
Mm.
in a year, and that it was significant. But the family, they were losing money on this. They hated it, and so at one point, um, Terry was outside and like I said, they saw these strange lights. I was like, what? It's like one of the things that people report seeing in this area are these orbs of light floating around. And there were two different ones that they saw. They'd see orange orbs, which would like move around weird and spit out other orange orbs. It would like replicate other orbs and then just kind of move around and then leave. But then they'd also see these blue orbs that didn't spit out orbs, but they kind of seemed more sentient. They kind of seemed like they weren't just kind of moseying around spitting out orbs. They kind of seemed like they had missions. And one time, Terry was outside with his three dogs, and he saw one of these blue orbs, and so he ordered the dogs to go chase it. And they did. The dogs went and chased the orbs. They chased it into the tree line, and then he heard the dogs yelp, and he went to go investigate, and the orb was not there. The dogs weren't there, but there were three piles of things on the ground. Like he believes that the dogs were incinerated by this orb.
Holy shit.
Yeah, yeah, and they're gone. And he never saw the dogs again.
Oh my
Any
god.
any thoughts on that incident?
That's heartbreaking. I'm a I've I spent most of the weekend alone with my one dog, and my wife was out of town, and she brought the one dog with her, and I stayed with the dog I like, my three-legged dog. And I realized at some point that this thing is going to die, and it will have a adverse emotional effect on me.
Oh yeah,
And I can't imagine your dog's being fucking vapor. I would like it's like losing a kid.
yeah.
You know
Oh,
what I mean?
all three
Especially in
of them at
those,
that. Yeah,
yeah, on a ranch where like they do shit, like they help you herd the cattle or
right.
whatever. They're obviously in a well trained where you can command it to chase orbs. I don't have that level of training with either of my dogs.
Yeah.
They would probably fucking shit themselves and run away.
They
But
would, wouldn't they? But then they wouldn't get vaporized, so that's
yeah,
okay.
exactly. Well, they're smart. But
Right.
man, that's you know what? That's crazy because that seems like an alien thing. I think this is what always confused me about the Skinwalker Ranch story. I was like, is it aliens or is it ghosts? So like the putting the groceries away, that seems like a ghost thing. Or putting the groceries back in the bag, that seems like a ghost thing. But getting vaporized by an orb definitely seems like an alien
Like
thing.
an alien thing, right?
Yeah.
Right. And the stories are just extremely abundant with this family and the things that they went through. They lived on the property for 2 years. The one time Terry saw headlights out in the front yard. He thought maybe it was a tourist that was lost. He said it looked like it was an RV, and he went outside and was started yelling out, "Hey, you guys lost or whatever?" And then the RV lifts off the ground and then shoots off into space.
Holy shit.
Yeah. I mean, and again, this is constant. They've seen, and like the crafts that they've seen aren't consistent. They're not the same. They've seen ones that are as big as football fields engulfing the area. They've seen just numerous disembodied flashes of light. They saw one that they said looked kind of like a refrigerator. Um, I, I I mean, again, these are all very. This was just normal. This was their life. But after the dog incident happened, they were already considering fucking leaving. But at that point, they were like, "We're gonna fucking leave. We're losing
Yeah,
money
you're in
here."
danger. Yeah.
Right, right. Now these things are like, we know that they attack us or whatever. I guess that the cattle mutilations weren't seen as violent, but okay. So they decided we're gonna leave. So there was a man by the name of Bob Bigelow who kind of took up an interest in the property and the stories, and he ran an organization called the National Institute for Discovery Science, or NIDS for short. So we're gonna refer to it as NIDS from now on. And he was interested in the property and went to the Sherman family and said, "Look, I'll buy it." And not just I'll buy it from you. Also, you can keep cattle here still. We kind of want you to keep cattle here because we want to be able to study and kind of bait, use the cattle as bait, but like, whatever you use. And so the Sherman family jumped all over this. They were like,
Right.
okay, we get, he bought the property for $200,000 in 1996. And they kept their cattle there. And so the Sherman family would still come back to tend to the cattle and things like that. Meanwhile, this NIDS group, Bob Bigelow had kind of, you know, vetted out these people. They weren't just like UFO enthusiasts or whatever. These were actual scientists that he had spent a lot of years and a lot of time finding. They were people that were skeptical, that did not believe in this stuff. And, they came in guns a-blazing thinking that there were all these explanations for these things. So, what he had done was he had kind of set up a lab on the property, as well as they had installed a couple of watchtowers on the property. They had installed fences, cameras. The point of this was to get evidence of this high strangeness happening. Now, the scientific team, they had people that lived there, like they were the field workers or whatever. But then they also had
Hmm.
people that would come in and off the property, to study various things and work different equipment. So he, this was a big project for something like this, especially when high strangeness. I mean, this is the holy grail of it, right? If we could just own a piece of property that we know all these things happen
Sure.
on, hire all these scientists, it was actually revealed at one point that Bigelow, I didn't put this in my notes, I should have. Bigelow had received money for this project from a grant from the U.S. government,
Wow.
that studied things like this, very, akin to, Project Blue Book and things like that. So he actually had money. I mean, he had all the money to do this and was doing it, and decided that, I'm going to catch evidence of this. But again, the team of scientists that came on, their initial thought was, well, let's look at the area. Are there plants nearby that drop spores that cause hallucinations? Is the family just crazy? Are there plates underground that can cause visual illusions, and then obviously hallucinations with that? I mean, they marked off all the boxes of what this could possibly be scientifically, and there was none of that. They found none of that on the property. So, going back to what they did find, right? Because again, big operation, this was a big
Sure.
thing. So Terry and Gwen would still come onto the property. And I've got a couple of stories of kind of what had happened there. Terry and Gwen one day were there, and they were tagging cattle because again they were leaving their cattle there, and they had just tagged a calf, and on the ear, and walked away for about 45 minutes. Well, one thing that kind of, when you read these stories, and again, I can't possibly share them all on this one show, but when you read these stories, there's one thing that's consistent. When a strange event happens, the smell overtakes the property, this weird musky smell. And again, they're out there. It's not just them. There's the NIDS people are there too. And they walk away from this calf and they do other things. And about 45 minutes later, they notice the mother of the calf was kind of acting weird and lipping around and doing weird things. So they kind of went to go investigate her. But then when they walked over to her, the calf that they had just tagged was on the ground. And the only thing that remained of this calf was the head the spine, and a couple of ribs.
Jesus Christ.
The tag, the ear that they had tagged, was also missing. So within a 45-minute period, something came, did whatever to that thing, and then left. And there was not a single drop of blood on the ground. Most of this calf was missing, and there was no blood. So that was interesting. So of course, the NIDS people came in and they tried to find, footprints, or they were testing out like the area and seeing if there's any electro magnetism happening as a radiation, and there was none of that. Um, and the local vet took and did a necropsy, and they just said there's absolutely no way that this was something that was done in a 45-minute period. There was over 60 pounds taken from this calf. There's no way.
Right.
So thoughts on that one?
I, you know, I, you almost got to wonder if it's the people.
That's very true. That's very
You know what I
true.
mean? Because
Um,
that's, if they're saying there's no way that could have been done in a 45-minute period, well, then either the people are lying about the time frame, and what a coincidence it happens when they come back, or so I've done a little looking at this while you've been talking. I've been listening, but like I pulled it up, so I know a little bit more than when I said 20 minutes ago that I knew absolutely nothing. I'm very interested to see what these people that are. I like what's cool about this story is the level of seriousness that it's being shown. I can't think of too many other paranormal things that are given this, with the exception of maybe like Loch Ness Monster or something, where you're actually seeing scientific um, research being done to try to get to the bottom of it. I'd be really interested to see what they come up with, moving away from this family. You know what I mean? With third parties,
well,
kind of.
we'll get there.
Yeah. That's
We're
what I'm
not there
excited
yet, but
about.
we'll get there.
I'm drooling at it. I'm salivating.
I get it. I get it. All right. So, another instance that happened, with Terry involved, again, and it is important to note when the family members are involved and when they're not, was that, he was kind of hanging out on the property, and with a couple of the NIDS guys, and they saw these giant yellow eyes out in the distance, and in a tree, and they didn't know what the hell it was. So Terry shot at it. He was like, I am not, absolutely not letting this thing take another one of my cattle. I'm shooting this fucking thing, and shot at it. And they all heard it hit the ground. Whatever it was, it fell from the tree and hit the ground. So they all rushed over there, and there was nothing there. But they saw those same yellow eyes out in the distance. Now, the thing about the eyes was that, to me, it seems like there's a big difference. It wasn't just like eye shine. Initially, they thought that they were headlights. So these eyes were like actually glowing, actually illuminating. And they saw them again even further out. So they went to go try to hunt it down again. Shot at this thing again. A couple of the people got a good look at it, and what they described as this thing being was a bipedal canine, the size of a man.
Okay.
And they shot at it again, and it just disappeared. It was gone. They actually took footprints. They had pictures of the footprints and then casts of the footprints, of these, basically paw prints with large, claw indentations in the ground, and they were, there was two prints, and they were 20 feet apart. So I don't know if that's just because it's a large stride, or that's because that's where the two footprints head. It could have been that. But yeah, I mean, that's what they saw, this huge creature. And the actual footprint itself was, as a matter of fact, I think it was like 14 inches long. I mean, they were massive. Um,
Jesus.
yeah, and then it disappeared, and that was that story. But so, and this one is really, really fascinating to me. Again, these NIDS people aren't these enthusiasts. They don't believe in this stuff.
Right.
They are actual scientists, with real world degrees. And anyway, so one night, two of them were hanging out on one of the watchtowers, and one was photographing just general things in the area, right? And then another one had night vision goggles. And while they were out there, they could both see in the distance one of these orbs. And so they were looking at it. Now the guy, with the no night vision goggles could see that it was kind of illuminating. It wasn't like crazy bright or anything, but he could see it. And then the guy with the night vision goggles could see it very brightly in the goggles, and he starts freaking out. And he's like, "It's not a light, it's a tunnel, and I can see through to the other side of it. It's a tunnel." And the guy's like, what the hell are you talking about? And as that's happening, he starts just losing his fucking mind. He says there's something crawling out of it. Some weird black humanoid type figure is crawling out of this tunnel. And at that point, when it crawled out of the tunnel, it was like something out of the movie. It crawls out of the tunnel and starts running towards them. And he can see that it's running towards him, but the guy that doesn't have the goggles cannot see that. And as it's running towards them, they both can hear the ground actually interacting and crunching underneath the weight of this thing. And it just runs
Mm,
past, and then it's gone.
holy shit.
Now, this isn't the Terry. This isn't Gwen. This is a fucking real life scientist who's
Right.
been to college, who doesn't believe in this, who thought that maybe this was all just the cause of mass hysteria with the family, and who saw this. That wasn't the first time that they had seen something like this with the night vision goggles. They had seen a creature in the distance, and it had talked to them and said, "I talked to the night vision goggle guy, and said, 'We're watching you.'" It said that he could see this creature in a tree in the distance on his night vision goggles. The photographer had no idea what he was talking about. And then when the guy kind of came to, when he stopped watching that creature, he couldn't remember what he had seen. It was only relayed to the photographer guy while it was happening. So it was only going off of that secondhand account. But the night vision goggle operator didn't remember it. So
Yeah,
yeah,
man. So obviously there's something about that area that it's a thin spot. The veil is very thin there,
very thin
right?
there. Yeah.
So you have stuff coming in and out from other dimensions. Um, but the memory, him not being able to remember it, that's super interesting because how would they how would something erase your memory like that?
Right. How does that influence me? And the one with the thing crawling out of the portal, because we talked about the orange orbs that seem to spit out other orbs. It wasn't spitting out other orbs, or was it spitting out creatures? And it's just you can't see it with the naked eye.
Oh my gosh.
So is there a history of that? So
Or
another
how
one
many
was
of these things are fucking running around?
right. Exactly.
You know what I
Exactly.
mean? Like,
Especially in that area. You know what? I got one more really interesting encounter that happened, and this did involve Terry and Gwen. They were just at the ranch. I think they had just experienced another cattle mutilation. They were getting ready. They were leaving, and while they're leaving, they had four prized bulls on the property. And Gwen had said to Terry, "I just can't imagine if anything ever happened to those bulls. We just would be fucked." And they left, and when they came back, all four bulls were gone. And so they were kind of looking around the area. They're like, what the hell happened? They go and they had heard some noises in this old trailer that nobody ever used. And Terry was able to peek into the trailer and saw all four bulls in this trailer. Now, these bulls were stuffed into this trailer like sardines. They would have never walked in the trailer on their own. And so the bulls started, he said when he looked at them, they were like in a trance. They weren't reacting at all. They were very calm. And then all of a sudden the trance kind of slowly started kind of lifting away. And then the bulls started losing their shit, started freaking the fuck out. So they
right.
got them out of there. But the door to this trailer was not only locked, it was wired fucking shut. Wired shut, and there were cobwebs on the door as if had never been touched in years because it hadn't been. Nobody had been using it. And those weren't observations made by just Terry and Gwen. That was the NIDS researchers. That's the observations that there was no way for these bulls to have gotten in this trailer, and especially not on their own. They wouldn't have just walked in and shoved themselves in there, and they couldn't have anyway because there was no way for them to get in.
And they can't operate doors.
They don't have thumbs. They have fingers.
Exhibit A.
Hey,
Moles can't open fucking
they
doors.
can't open fucking doors, right?
Everything else is inconsequential after that once you take that into account. But
So that was another. I mean, the Bulls ended up being fine, but it was just a very, again, a very weird. Um, there's no evidence of what happened. So anyway, all this weird shit happens, and those are just like the most notable stories, or at least ones that I found particularly
right,
interesting. So much more, but um, what had happened was activity started dwindling on the ranch, and after a while, as of 2004, the NIDS people left. They sold the property and left because they decided that it wasn't lucrative anymore. It wasn't. They weren't finding anything. The activity had all but went away. It was gone, and they didn't know why. Um, so that was the most comprehensive research they put into it. So nowadays,
right.
a guy by the name of, I think his name is Brandon Fogel,
Yes.
Brandon something. He's bought the property, and he won't let anybody on it
Except for camera crews.
except for camera crews. That's absolutely 1,000% correct.
Yes.
Yeah, those are the only people he wants on it. Now he claims that he obviously there's something going on here. He wants to find the secrets, blah blah blah. But the only people he's let on there are people from like the History Channel to do this like show that they've been doing or whatever. Um, which is not TV is not science. It's interesting and yes, we should sell it, but TV is not science. It's just not the way that works. So, yeah, that there's other things too. Before the Shermans owned the property, it was owned by another family for 60 years. They owned it. And we kind of talked about like the deadbolt things and stuff like that. Now, this family, once all this came out, the matriarchs of the matriarch and patriarch of the family, they've died. But the kids have said that absolutely nothing weird ever happened to them ever in the 60 years they were there. Nothing ever happened. Um, but other people have come forward and said that that's just not true. They had actually had also cattle mutilations and they had experienced weird visitors, just people showing up. And that's why they had things dead bolted and stuff because these weird people would show up all the time. And they were just ashamed to talk about it. And there was like an instance, I guess, where there was a guy coming and working on a fence there at the house and he just fucking disappeared and he was gone for 3 days and doesn't remember what happened for those 3 days. He showed up 3 days later, had no idea it had been 3 days, and that was that. But we don't really have a way to verify these stories because those people are dead.
Right.
So that's kind of a hot button topic. I mean, that is very much up for debate on whether or not that was true. Because, like you would think, it sounds like, the kids are insistent. It's not the property, it's the Shermans. And maybe it is the Shermans, and that's why it also disappeared.
Oh, yeah, that seems kind of weird for people to generate interdimensional portal activity. You know what I mean? But no, because they said that when the people that lived there before said that there was stuff going on, right? It predates the Shermans.
No, so the people that lived there before never said that stuff was going on. The kids said that nothing was ever going on. But people have come out claiming to have been friends of the family and neighbors and things like that that claim that yes, there was things going on.
Oh, if you go to the Skinwalker Ranch website, uh, skinwalker-ranch.com, it says something about there was a sheriff in the 80s that um a deputy sheriff who responded to incidents on the ranch in the 1980s. This includes, yeah. So there's, I don't know. If it is, like I said, something specific to that area where portals are opening up and things are coming through, it would make sense that it would predate those people moving in.
Right.
What about those people was triggering all this stuff? I don't know. Because do they have this when they go other places, right? When they finally moved, does this shit happen at their house? I'm sure in their new, whatever they moved to, or now that they
Right.
don't keep cattle there anymore, does it happen where their new cows are at? I'm guessing not, So maybe it was just a certain person at a certain place can create certain types of activity, right? Like you need a gatekeeper and a keymaster to come together and fucking open up the door. Um, I don't know. You know, it definitely it's interesting because there's an intelligence here that seems to be at play with some of this phenomenon. It's not just like random shit, right? It's the stuff with the groceries, the stuff with the bulls, right? It's antagonistic, but it's not necessarily evil, or like that wolf ate the cow, but it was biting on the cow, but it never attacked the people. You know what I mean? The guy with the infrared goggles sees this thing come through a portal and run right at him and run right past him. They're never attacked.
Yeah.
You know, guy disappears for 3 days, but then he's brought back. Right?
Yeah, no
Um,
human deaths, I believe, have ever occurred on the property.
yeah. So it's definitely, and when you think about it, if you were an invisible monster, what would stop you from killing people indiscriminately? Why would you? Do you have a code of morals? What's or like
Well, unless this thing is studying who's ever on the property, then it has reason to keep it alive.
right? Who's studying who? Are we there to investigate the ranch, or is the ranch there to investigate us?
Right. Right. And I think that that would probably make the most sense. I don't it's hard to find the stuff with the NIDS people like that. That is, I believe, very legitimate. Now they've come into a lot of scrutiny because they didn't really do what they set out to do, and that was produce evidence of this stuff happening. There are, I guess I couldn't find them, but there are like pictures and videos of these orbs. These orbs seem to play a huge part in this, but there do seem to be picture and videos of these orbs or whatever. And then that seems to be it really. And so, but what the scientists were saying with the group is that, the only thing that we can really tell you is that whatever these things are, they are intelligent enough to avoid us capturing this evidence.
Right. Yeah. I
They
mean,
are doing stuff just outside. They know where our cameras are. They're doing it just outside of the camera. Or when these things happen, there's a malfunction in the equipment all of a sudden and we can't capture it. And that's one thing. Why would they hide? Why would they hide from us? Why would they hide from the evidence?
well, I mean that's a good question, but you have to think because they're not here to make waves. They're here to do what they do in secret. They're still trying to practice some form of discretion.
Right.
But there's so that also denotes intelligence, right?
It
It's
does.
not just like, oh, there's this accidental rip between two worlds and sometimes weird monsters wander in and then die from the oxygen in 3 days or some shit. Like obviously, you know, these things are coming here with intent, and they're doing whatever they're doing and they're bouncing out. And I don't know, but then they take time to fuck people's groceries. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
that's the other thing, but that could be a time distortion or something. Uh where
Like she fell into a slip for us just those couple of minutes.
for whatever reason, yeah.
Yeah, it
Because
could be.
because there's no, like, that's, you're purely just fucking with people. Same thing with the bulls, you know what I mean? But maybe that's, you know,
I mean, the Bulls thing seemed very intentional to be like, don't
well,
fucking
yeah,
tell us what we're gonna do because we're gonna
that's a
do it.
crazy yeah, that's a crazy piece of evidence to leave behind too,
Right.
for someone that for the most part is trying to practice discretion, to then shove four bulls into a fucking
Tiny ass
trailer.
trailer, yeah.
Yeah, which couldn't be done any other way with uh, besides like teleportation or fucking magic. So like obviously they slip up every once in a while, or they get fucking wasted and are like, you know what, let's
Let's
screw with
fuck
these
with these
guys.
people.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
know what I mean. So that shows like that, that shows that's a flex, you know. So why do they flex? Like they try to remain secret. They try to avoid any kind of concrete evidence from being collected, but then they'll do these weird flexes from time to time. And that is more than just, now you're talking about personality. Now you're not just talking about intelligence. You're talking about almost a borderline, you don't know if it's a sense of humor.
Yeah.
or if it's a form of communication or what. But it's very interesting, very very
You know,
interesting.
Utah. Yeah, I mean, do you ever think about Utah? You ever really think about it?
No,
Right, exactly.
only when I'm masturbating.
Yeah, I don't even like, those skinwalkers. Um, you know, right? Nobody ever fucking thinks about Utah. It seems like a very, very flyover state. I am very curious to deep dive Utah. It'll be a while, but I can't wait to deep dive Utah for our Weird World show. But because it has something like that Skinwalker Ranch is very significant, and it's in fucking Utah. And not just that, there's like a legend that like skinwalkers like not guard over necessarily, but they're located at the four corners of Utah. There's like something with that. I haven't really dug too deep into that, but I've always heard that. Um, you know why? I think it's because there was a lot of allegedly a lot of Native war, but then again, I guess that I would have to believe in Native American, um, folklore to believe that they can curse the land or whatever. I don't know if they can. I'm not saying they can't. I just don't know if they can. But you know, and then what does that leave? Then at the end, I mean, are we talking something supernatural? Are we talking that they've made a deal with these aliens? Somehow, some way, and they consider them gods or magic of some sort, which I mean, I guess could be likely. Um, because this all kind of ties in together. Again, this is very cursed land. There's a whole tribe of people that won't fucking go near it because it's cursed. So I mean,
Well,
there's something there
up until the mid-90s, and then it became uncursed. There is centuries of paranormal activity,
and then
and
all
then
of a
they
sudden,
stopped. Yeah, and I'm guessing I haven't watched this TV show, but this is perfect timing for this episode because season 3 just started in May. Uh, so hopefully we get a lot of
yeah,
listeners. That's why I've been keeping my mouth shut and letting you do the thing. And I really regret making that masturbation joke 5 minutes ago because this could be a lot of people's first episode. Um, but I would assume that the TV show hasn't. Let me put it like this. I mean, I pay attention to a lot of this shit. You pay attention to a lot of this shit. If that TV show uncovered anything of substance in the past 2, 3 seasons, we would have known about it,
right, and
right? And
yeah,
it hasn't.
and it
But
hasn't.
but maybe these intelligent, right, forces that prize their just anonymity, right? Maybe they thought that it was getting too hot. The water was getting a little too hot, and they had to bounce out. You know, with all these scientists showing up, and now a fucking TV crew.
That's
Maybe
true.
it's Skinwalker Ranch ain't when it used to be, man. It's the fucking yuppies moved it in and ruined everything, which is exactly like what happened. Like rich people fucking bought it, and I applaud them for doing that. Because that's something that I would think of. Like it actually was a movie idea I had once, but it was like when you look at what rich people could really do with the amount of money that they have, it's insane that more people don't get more involved. And you almost have to think that everyone shits on Elon Musk, and I'm not going to get too deep into that, but that seems like a guy that's trying to do stuff with his money. Whether or not you agree with the stuff he does, fine, but he's not just hoarding wealth. You know what I mean? Um, Whenever you hear about Bill Gates, bought a new computer in every classroom in Seattle, it's like he could do that with the fucking world with the amount of money he has, right? These guys can do like major shit, and most of them don't. They don't really do the amount of stuff they could do. I know George Clooney has a satellite. I don't know if you ever heard that before, where he kind of he'll send pictures of like troop movements in Africa to like the military and stuff, um, because for whatever reason the military doesn't do that, but he's got like a surveillance satellite that he owns that he put into fucking space, George Clooney, and he uses it to feed intelligence to the military. A lot of times with like those like roving like warlords to like try to shut that shit down, right? So like our military isn't going to do that. They're not going to waste their time on that shit.
Right.
But he will do that. George Clooney does that. That stuff I think is crazy, and I love seeing stuff like that. So these guys saying, "Hey, here's a piece of land that's been haunted. There's all this stuff. Fuck it, we're going to buy it and do a bunch of tests, or we're going to buy it and the TV show thing seems a little schmaltzy, but I mean, you got to applaud the effort, but I think it comes with the caveat of they may have these things, whatever you thought you were going to study, obviously had an intelligence behind it that knew that you were going to do that and then just left,
Yeah, I
you
think
know?
that's a good possibility. I mean, I think it's weird. When I go back and I read some of these things, I initially thought, well, hell, it's just the family, making up shit or whatever. Who knows what's going on there? But now that I've read it with this organization of people, I don't think that they were just caught up in mass hysteria. I think that they, genuinely went set out to do their job, and they proved what it wasn't, right? And so at minimum they did that, which is really important. You know what I mean? If they had gone there and said, oh yeah, there's this fucking plant that's making everybody hallucinate this shit, then we'd be like, oh, case closed. But that's not what happened. Whatever. you know it's interesting now. And if this is your first time listening to the show and you're here because of this Skinwalker Ranch show, things to consider. Again, I'm not saying that there's nothing going on there, but the guy that owns it now, if you start asking him questions about having groups of scientists up there, or when you even start asking, well, where does the money for this show go? Does it go back into the project? He doesn't answer. He cuts and runs. He's very hard to talk to, which is odd
Well, he's
because
a real estate guy, you know what I mean? And
he's
he's
probably
obvious.
very busy.
Well, he's a nerd too because number one, he bought Skinwalker Ranch. Number two, the shell corporation that he set up to buy Skinwalker Ranch was called Adamantium Holdings. And every comic book fan knows adamantium is the imaginary metal that lines Wolverine's bones. So that's
Yeah,
what
he's a
Wolverine's
nerd.
claws are made out of. So he's a big fucking nerd. So I was actually surprised when I went to the website that he's kind of a part of the show. He's like, I don't know if he's the host. I've never seen a single episode, so I'm
It's
sorry.
all based on it, right? The whole website is entirely based on that show,
Right, but he's listed as part of the cast, and he's in
right?
some of the pictures and promotional pictures and shit. So that's something that, like, you don't normally see too much of, where like you have these people that then, you know, I could see paying to have these people come in and do this, and the idea that you're going to turn it into the show. Well, you're going to have cameras there anyway, right? You might as well, try to make some money on the back end. But I don't know. I don't think you could do. I don't know how many seasons you could do where you don't find shit. It's like the joke about searching for Bigfoot.
I'm pretty
It's
sure
like,
Finding Bigfoot has like 11 seasons or something, and people still fucking watch it.
yeah, they didn't find Bigfoot because trust me, before that thing was edited and set to air, if they found Bigfoot, you'd find out about it.
Right, you know
You
it.
know what I
Right.
mean?
They haven't found it yet. I mean,
Yeah,
11 seasons and still,
they
you
didn't
know,
find it, and they didn't wait to release this information to the world until Wednesday night or whenever the
right.
fucking thing airs. You know?
Right. Right. You would know. That's the way that, I mean, but that's kind of the thing with this now. What do I think Skinwalker Ranch is now? I'd like to go there. Of course I've tried to reach out to the guy, but
Oh
he
hell yeah, I would totally
won't
go.
respond. I mean, and not even just, it wasn't like I reached out to him and I'm like, hey, I want to come to Skinwalker Ranch. You don't know who the fuck I am or what I do at all, and I'm insignificant, but I'd like to come there. No, I mean, I reached out to him and was just like, hey, I know that you own this now. Just would like to ask a couple of questions about it. You don't have to answer anything you don't want to. No response. And I'm not the
R-
only one. And and it's not just people like me. It's bigger people that he won't respond to. Or again, they do get a response from him and he starts talking to them about it, but then they start kind of asking again harder questions. Where does the money for the show go to? What is the aim for this? I mean,
it might not be profitable. He might be funding it himself. He might have bought this ranch with this idea, produced the show himself, took it to the History Channel and said, "Hey, if I we run this thing," and History Channel says, "Yeah, you can get well, you produce the show yourself. We'll run it. And we'll split the advertising or something."
but why wouldn't
He
he
might
just
not be
say
making
that?
because he might not be making money out of it, and it makes him look like he doesn't really have this great of a show. He basically has to pay to play. No one wants to admit that. No one likes to admit that they pay for sex. You know what I mean? It makes it's just kind of you look like a fucking scrub.
I suppose so,
So
but if the whole reason that you bought it and you're putting this much time into it is to study this stuff and put it out there, then you need transparency. And I will die on that hill. You need to be transparent.
I bet if you write this guy a letter and include some Polaroids
That's a
and
good
say,
idea.
"Hi, I'm a weird goth podcaster and I want to come to your house, I think he would probably let you come over.
That's a good idea.
Right.
I think I'm
And then
gonna try it. Here's my
yeah.
Instagram.
If
Specifically,
you're
go look at this part of it.
these dates, check out my Instagram on these dates. I'm very photogenic. Let me come to your house and I'll let you videotape me.
Absolutely, at Skinwalker Ranch. I will film the first porn at Skinwalker Ranch. You know
No, you
what?
won't.
If listen, if that's what it takes to get me to Skinwalker Ranch, I will fucking absolutely do it.
Right.
1,000%. I'm so down for that.
I I didn't mean it like that, but
I'm meaning it like that, and I'm
yeah.
saying that. If there is a market for this, and you would like to see the first porn video filmed at Skinwalker Ranch, and maybe even, I mean, I'll fuck the orbs if that's what it takes. I mean,
Shoot orbs out of your pussy. That's where they came from, and they went back in time.
yeah,
This is how it starts. This
this
is
is
how it starts. You go there, and then
it's
that
my
fucking
fault. Yeah.
reverberates backwards through fucking the ripple across the time pond or whatever. You
Listen,
know?
anything for science, okay? I'm here for the science.
Oh yeah,
So,
man. You can have people in cow costumes, people in alien costumes.
hell yeah.
I'm already thinking about this porno that we could do. You know what I mean? There'll be a tentacle creature.
I'm just instead of the hunt for Skinwalker Ranch, it's the cunt at Skinwalker Ranch. All right, I'll shelve that one for now. But I'm very serious also. So I mean, if you're
Uh,
listening, Brandon Frugal, I don't know his fucking name. What's his last name?
I mean, I
Not
think
Fogel.
Fuga. It could be Fugal,
Fugal.
right?
Whatever your name is, my guy. I
I
don't give a
guess.
shit.
Yeah, I guess we could have looked it up,
Looked his
but
name
we
up.
didn't.
I know
Right?
his name. I don't remember it. You know.
Phonetically, yeah. No,
Right.
that's
I
fine.
mean, I know it. I start typing it out, and Google finishes it. It's fine. In our Twitter or whatever.
Right.
Um, I don't think it's that important. But anyway, my point is back to what I think is going on now. I think nothing's going on now. I think that whatever I agree, I think that whatever was there is probably gone. And now this guy is just milking it for everything it's worth. And other people are doing that. George Knapp. Put out a book with one of the NIDS
Yeah.
guys, and he,
I will read that book after this.
of
I
course,
because that's exactly who I want to hear talk about this
yes,
is the NIDS guys. I
the
don't
NIDS guys, yeah,
that's the story that I want. Yeah.
right. And that's kind of that was also a big boom in this story. And I'm not necessarily saying that George Knapp, was monetizing on the event, but it sounds like he was. But I think a lot of people now are, and because it is a big story and it is so topical, and we can't deny the fact that the things were happening there that can't be explained. That was followed by a team of scientists. It's the closest we've gotten to actual scientific research of high strangeness.
Oh, and you know what? I didn't realize this. One of the investigators of the Skinwalker Ranch is Bud Hopkins, who wrote Intruders, which was we talked about on
Yeah.
one of the Patreon episodes. So very interesting.
Yeah, yeah,
Very
that is
interesting.
interesting.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's what I think. Pat, final thoughts on what you think about Skinwalker Ranch now and then?
I'm gonna read that George Knapp book. I think it's interesting. It's also interesting to consider the whole, paranormal phenomenon kind of turning itself off when it realizes it's being investigated too closely. I think that makes sense, and I think that we some of this behavior is obviously demonstrated that there is an intelligence at work here. So if it's an intelligent force that's trying to avoid detection or at least keep a somewhat low profile, why wouldn't it pick up and leave at a certain point? Because people were looking too closely. I mean, it explains why, people are still searching for Bigfoot, why he hasn't been found. Maybe it's not just a big dumb ape. Maybe it's very intelligent with powers that we don't fully understand.
Yeah,
And that's why so much of this stuff is still elusive and it's not necessarily that someone's hoarding all the answers. It's that we're purposely being kept in the dark by the phenomenon itself, and that opens up a whole other realm of possibilities to consider.
yeah.
So this good episode really
It
twisted my melon.
I mean, it fuels my theory. You know, these things will never find out what they are. We will never find out what they are because we'll only know when they decide to tell us. And
Right.
that's just the way it is. And that's why some people kind of know because they've been, I mean, God, it sounds so weird and mystical, but I swear to God, that's scientific, but they've been bestowed something and that's why they know. You know, I'm not saying that they've necessarily been spoken to. Some people claim that they have. Some people are contactees that claim to have, you know, lifelong. I did see something where a lady's claiming that she's dating an alien or whatever. They've been together for like a year or something. You know, I don't know. I don't know if she is or isn't. That part doesn't matter. But I think some people kind of had been bestowed with this intelligence and maybe not necessarily in a conversation that they've had with these things, but just kind of given it.
Well,
And
she thinks they're dating. I mean, the
yeah, he seems to
the alien's
be.
like way more casual about it, but
Yeah,
she's convinced they're in a relationship.
he's like not wanting. She's like, I hope we get married, and he's like, I don't.
We're not going in that direction, honey. I'm
You
sorry.
can't even come to my house. Like that's a problem. Read about that lady, I guess, if you want to. Just
Yeah.
fucking Google alien date lady dates alien
Hey,
or some shit.
if he never lets you in, you're the side piece.
Right,
If he never lets you in
exactly.
the apartment, you're the side piece.
Right. She's
If
not
you
allowed to go to his house because that's where his family's at.
exactly, I know this one all too well. Yeah.
But you know, anyway, you know, but that's my take on it. Again, we won't know until they tell us. It doesn't mean we should stop chasing after these things. I think that we need to continue to spread the knowledge and the fact that these things are happening, because whatever it is they are, spirits, aliens, whatever the fuck was going on at Skinwalker Ranch, I think undoubtedly something was happening there.
Right.
You know, I don't
Right.
think it is anymore. But yeah, I think it was, and I think that you know we'll just never fucking know until they tell us what was happening there. So there's that.
All right.
All right then. Well, good episode. Yeah. And I don't think I have anything else. Do you have anything else? Am I forgetting something?
Uh, see you guys next Wednesday.
All right. See you guys next Wednesday.